Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and wow, today is an epic day. Me and the one and only Spiffy Tiffy back on the pod. Tiff, I feel like this is our time where we get to connect and hang out. How do you feel about this?
I totally agree. I think our business has developed so much over the course of the last few years. Gosh, we've been doing this together for so long, but our business has developed so far that sometimes we feel far away. So this is our catch up time, and then we just get our whole Dental Team community gets to be a part of it, and I think that's really cool.
Crazy. I remember listening to podcasts before I started the podcast, and I always thought, why do people chit chat on the podcast? Just get right into the meat of it. And I'm like, oh, it's probably because they haven't talked to each other. And it'd be weird. Could you imagine if I show up to your house and I'm like, hey, I'm ready for food, feed me?
Yeah.
That feels a little awkward. So just so you know, it's real life conversation. We can't just jump right in and be like, hey, girl, I know I haven't talked, but let's dive into it. But on that note, it is January, and let's really dive into it.
I know, I agree. Tactical. January is a tactical month.
It is. It feels like, I always feel like January is the month where so much momentum is either built or lost to set you up for the rest of the year. It's are you crushing your goals? Are you getting to the gym? I have a personal trainer, and she said January personal training is psycho. She's like, it is nuts as a trainer because everyone's hitting it. Again, we're trying to build this momentum for the rest of the year. And I oftentimes feel like without a plan, it can get really hard to build that momentum. So I feel like it's the month where you either kick it off strong or you kick it off and you don't start strong and it kind of gets away from you. And then it kind of feels like the rest of your year is just slipping away. And Tiff, I know you and I wanted to prep the community, prep our podcast family. How can you really build that momentum into 2024 right here, right now in January and be successful for that?
Yeah, totally. And I've actually had a lot of people I've noticed on social media, and I've had a lot of clients reaching out, and they're like, gosh, Tiff, I don't know what to do for my goals this year. And I don't know where to take my company. And gosh, we accomplished so much last year. How do we build on top of that? And I love those questions. And I love when people don't know what their next goal should be, because it's clear creative time. And even if you do have an idea of what you want your goals to be, we love to take it a step further and really develop that roadmap, that business roadmap for so much further than just this year. And Kiera, I don't know many people in my life who are really fantastic at doing that and building out goals and helping people to feel inspired to reach new heights. And I think that's a gift that you've been given and something that you've inspired the rest of the Dental team to really get good at, so that we can continue to inspire so many people and our whole entire community here. And I think that's a piece that you really developed for January for all of our clients and non-clients. And I'm so excited because I think you came up with the most amazing way, in my opinion, to, in a short amount of time, really help people build this roadmap for their business. Again, whether they have it or whether, they've got these little inklings. I know a lot of people can do 2024. That's easy. We're going to hit 5 million this year instead of the 4.5 that we did last year. But what about after that? And Kiera, is that something that you feel like you've seen? I know you've still got a handful of old clients that I've been pushing on you about, but you see all of our clients too. Is that something you feel like is super beneficial January to really get started on developing that kind of a roadmap? How far should they be looking?
For sure. I'm so glad we said what we said. And thank you, huge thank you for the compliment you gave me, because I don't feel like goal setting is just something you're naturally born with. Do I think some people think a little further down the line than others by default? Absolutely. But Tiff, you've known me for so long, we've alluded to that at the beginning, but goal setting has become like a process and something like I feel like it truly is a development of muscle and skill and like how far down the line should I look? And so I'm just going to drop this here. What we're going to talk about on the podcast today is going to be like a shortened version because I believe that you've got to have a roadmap in place. And for some people, like Tiff, you and I've talked, like I naturally will think more about goals, but even this year, I didn't. And it's not the goals,
Yeah.
because again, I'm going to like rewrite goals definition for you. This is something a therapist told me, and I love it. Of goals are stars to guide by, not sticks to beat ourselves with. And I would much rather be aiming for the stars than intentionally missing and not having my team set up there. So January 26th, we're putting on a 2-hour free webinar. It's going to be incredible. It's 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So it's just 2 hours because I just feel like so many people don't know how to do this. And so I wanted to have it out there. I wanted it to be free for you guys, but then also like, what is this really going to be about? And so Tiff and I are going to give you a small snippet of that today of, like you said, like, yeah, some of us it's easy for us. And for some, it's not even easy for us. But for everyone, I think you need to have a plan, you need to have accountability, and you need to actually follow up and have some action behind it. Because as an owner myself, I can get inundated with the day to day. Tiff, you see that? Like, shoot, we're already into January. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my to do list has gotten huge. Like, it
Yeah.
just feels that the momentum almost feels like it's slipping away from us or it's running us over. And instead of, I feel like being run over or directed by the momentum, like I want to be directing the momentum. I want to know where we're headed. I want to be looking out like all of our clients. Yes. And it's crazy because when people will just take some simple planning time, which is why it's 2 hours on a Friday. So you better block your schedules right now. And I am going to tee it up. There is something special coming from Dental 18 for you. So I will be teeing this up. And you will not want to miss January 26th. I am doing something I have never, ever, ever in my life offered. But I just feel like it is something so valuable for the dental community going into 2024. So, like, you definitely want to be there. But it is like, Tiff, let's kind of roll through what it's going to be and give you
Yeah.
guys some tacticals right now to be thinking of. But definitely go book your calendars. You can head on over to thedentalyteam.com/. MM24. It stands for Master Momentum 2024. Like, and I love that phrase for two reasons. One, I think being a master of something means that you don't just get it by the back end. You don't just get it from this like happenstance, but you truly are mastering something, and then you're mastering the momentum. So momentum is no longer running you. And then you're also like a master of it. So you figured it out. So master momentum 24. So head on over to thedentalyteam.com/MM24. You guys can register. It's totally free, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific time. And so that is 11 to 1 Eastern. There you go. Just to help with that. But Tiff, like, let's give them a little bit of a roadmap of what I believe and what you believe clients and practices need to have right now, because I don't believe it's just the practice. I believe that it's all the parts of our lives to build the true momentum for a successful life, not just a successful business.
Mhm. I totally agree. I totally agree. And I want everybody to understand and know too that everything that Dental 18 puts out, all the things that we think of, all the things that we're creating are typically wrapped around things that we're seeing in the community, things that our clients are struggling with that we're seeing on repeat. We're seeing this things just kind of in this cyclical motion within the dental community. And so we utilize what we're all seeing as dental coaches and consultants and just seeing forums, things like that. We kind of utilize that and we think, okay, what would best serve the community if we were able to take all of these things and bundle them into 2 hours or whatever it is. Like we take all of these pieces and say, okay, what's gonna best serve? And I think something that Kiera, that we noticed was one that business roadmap. I think, like I said
Mhm.
earlier, not a lot of people think outside of the 1 year, and that's something that you've even taught me to do in my personal life. So I think taking you guys, if you're considering this right now, which you should be, like, take that into consideration. Look at personal and business, because if we're only looking at one, is that serving the other, or are they like butting heads and
Mhm.
not working together? That is where you get that quote unquote work life balance. So looking at that roadmap, like what is your 1, 3, 10? What do all those mile markers look like within that? And then, Kara, I think one of the biggest pieces that we're really working towards with our clients and our non-clients this year is really getting information out on how to best utilize your time. One of the things
Mhm.
that I see constantly coming in from my clients and within the dental community is like, wait, well, I finally got these CEO hours in here, but what do I do with it? And then while that's happening, what do I do with my goals that aren't tracking or my accountabilities that aren't working? We've got so many pieces we can tell you all the things, but
Mhm.
then what do you do when they're not perfect? And Kiera, I think that was one of the most exciting things that you when you ran through all of the stuff that we're going to be talking about and what we're developing for these people is what to do when it's not going exactly
Mhm.
how you thought it was going to, because oftentimes we're just like, here, go do this, and then we wash our hands of it, we walk away, and the other person on the other side's like, well, that sounds great, but
Mm.
it's not working. So I think
Right.
that was one of the biggest tools I heard in there, was really what to do when a goal's not tracking, what to do when it's something's going wrong, what to do with the time now that I've carved it out. And Kira, I think speaking to that's probably something that's going to be really huge for everyone to know and understand.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that because I've just found that we're so good. Like I think about January and we're so good at getting the excitement, right? Like we see all the blog posts, we see different people, we saw how our year was last year, but it's like, all right, I got gumption and I'm super excited, but it's not about like it's truly not about the gumption and the excitement. It's like, what do we do when this doesn't happen? Or what do we do
Mhm.
in this moment? And Tiff, you actually gave me this really cool gift a few years ago. You know, it's one of my favorite things. It's this like adorable quote thing that I have right here. And it was really interesting because our quote on Friday said, enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare. And I feel like that's so fitting for here because the endurance comes from what do I do when this doesn't work? And like you said, mastering your time. Something we've incorporated that I'm really excited to teach on that Friday, the 26th, is how do we master our time? So many people ask me this. They come to me and they're like, Kira, how do you get so much done? Like, you guys podcast a ton. You guys have content out there all the time. You're speaking, you have your client load. And I'm like, bottom line is you got to be darn good at using the time we're given for work and then darn good at using the time we have given for our family and making sure that those are in good like alignment. And then also being good at using time for ourselves. And Tiff, I know we've actually started incorporating this in Dental A Team where we do what's called sprint planning. And we just did it today. And our whole team goes through and we look at the available hours and we look to see what can we do with that time. And so teaching you guys how to use that CEO time, like what am I supposed to do? Great, I've got it, but what do I actually do with that? So it's auditing your P&L, it's listening to exams, it's going through and checking charts and auditing charts, it's going and looking at your fees to make sure that they're in alignment with what's outside, looking at your tiers for your team. Do you have tiers set up of how can they actually evolve through the company? And do you know what in 5 years you're going to be paying for payroll? How do you
Yeah.
then grow your business to accommodate that? I oftentimes am looking at, like, I just threw it in our chat today because I was looking down the line of, oh my gosh, we need to start planning for this now, but that's not going to hit me in about 9 months. But I need to have it in place today for 9 months later. So teaching you guys how to use that time. But then again, like, what happens when I don't stay accountable? What
Yeah.
happens when my team doesn't stay accountable? What happens when, and the answer is like, those are just uncomfortable conversations. Like something Tiff is incredibly masterful at. It's the uncomfortable conversations that we get to become comfortable. I mean, I think it's one of those things I can sit here all day long and say, have a great team and hold them accountable. And reality is, no person stays accountable. I used an analogy the other day, like pretend like whatever your vice of choice is, pretend I say, okay, I'm going to put you in front of your vice of choice. For me, I really do love candy. So you'd be like putting me in front of this like amazing, I don't know, like it's not just like any type of candy. Right now, I'm really into Cinnabon. That's like my go to jam right now. And I'm really into, gosh, like Reese's peanut butter cups. Like that's my vice of choice. So you say, all right, Kira, go stand in front of Cinnabon and go stand in front of like a Reese's thing. You can have as many as you want. All you have to do is just like grab it, but yet you're going to have me like try to willpower through that. We can only last through that for so long. And I want you to realize that the vices of choice that I just gave the analogy of, we have all those vices of choice within the companies. We have all these things like I could be spending time producing dentistry. I can be spending time hiring people. I could be spending time like scrolling social media. And so we have all these vices truly sitting right in front of us. How do we go around that? How do we fix it? Because the reality is, it's not if it's going to happen, it's when is it going to happen? Your goals will get off track. I mean, Tiff, how many times are our goals in the company off track? Like,
Mm.
how many times are they read on that freaking agenda every week? And I'm like, dang it, it's off track again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it just happens. And so navigating like when it's off track, you put it on as the top number one focus if it truly is the number one focus of your goals, and we get back on track as a whole team effort or the accountable parties. There's just so many pieces for that. And then also, I mean, Tiff, did we hit our goals in 2023 as a company?
Mm-mm. No.
Nope, we missed it.
No.
And you
No,
know
we
what's
didn't.
awesome? I freaking love that we missed it because here's another quote for you. Tiff, thanks for that quote thing right here.
You're so
One of
welcome.
our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. And I freaking
Mhm.
love when we miss a goal. Like I prefer to actually hit the goals more, but I love it because it forces us to go and like assess why did we miss? And we do this every quarter. And so
Yeah.
teaching you guys like that is good. That is normal. This is how you do it. These are how you have the conversations. I think allows you to have a lot more flexibility and freedom to set lofty goals, knowing you might freaking fail. But here's what we do when we start to get off track and how we get back on track. Tiff, did I change the goal when we were off track?
No.
Nope. And we knew we were going to miss it probably at about like Q3. It became
Oh,
a
yeah.
reality of like, this thing's looking. But guess what? To the very last working day in December, we did not give up. Shelby went clear up to the last day. The whole team went up to the last day because we're going to give it everything we've got. So that way, when we come into 2024, we know, hey, this is why and this is where it's at. So all of that we just shared, how to actually do that in your practice, because I didn't just learn this on day one or day like I don't even know what day I'm on, like 20,000. I don't know. This is a practice and something that you can learn, and there are actual tools and skills to make these things become easier. So you're more successful to master that momentum instead of being like mastered by the momentum. Like I'd much rather master it than become a victim to it as well.
I agree. And I think you mentioned freedom,
Mhm.
freedom from feeling like you can't set lofty goals. But I think it's also when you said that it was freedom from being chained by your goals. Because I think oftentimes we set those goals, and like you said, it's a stick to beat ourselves with. But sometimes we feel so chained to those goals, like we can't, they're not flexible and we can't work around them. And when they're not working, we're just failing. So, like, let's not set them at all because I don't want to fail. Or let's not set, goals that are stretch because I don't want to fail or because I don't know what to do when they're off track. I
Mhm.
don't know what to do with my time. I'm burnt out. I don't know what to do anymore. And oftentimes, I think that feeling of burnout is a misuse of resources, time, energy, and really pushing for things that you're not even sure how to get there anyways. So I think you do a solid job, and I know you will with this course as well, or this 2 hour event, of really building out a solid roadmap with detours. Like
Mhm.
when that construction sign comes up and you're like, shoot, what do I do? They have signs that's like left or right, and they've got the cones ready to go. You don't just come up to a construction site and you don't know what to do. And we all just sit there with our hands in the air. And that's kind of what it feels like. I think when our goals are off track, we're like, I don't know, because we were supposed to hit it. So now what do we do? But
Mhm.
you've got so many things in place to really help, not only like the trudge and making it work, that momentum to get there, which I think is what everyone does really well. I think all of these courses, especially at the beginning of the year, every motivational speaker, everyone does that so well. You can get me motivated to do it. But then when I'm doing it and I hit that detour sign and there's not something there that tells me left or right, that's where I get stuck and that's when I give up. And I think that's
Mhm.
just human nature. So we can give you all of the motivation. That's going to be there too. Kiera is jam packed full of motivation. January 26th will come with plenty of that, but she's also going to have those detours for you. And I think that is the key to success that a lot of people are missing. What do we do when we fall off? What do we do when we're not working out 5 days a week and that's what we committed to? Do we just give up or do we say, you know what, actually, I'm going to go from 3 to 4 and we start building a new plan? I think, Kiera, that's something that January 26th is going to have that I don't see in a lot of other places and spaces and events. Like, I think that's huge. When you were, like I said, when you're going through this stuff, like some of those things, I'm like, dang, I can't wait for this event myself. I know we work on this all the time, but it's so cool the repetition of hearing that stuff. So I'm just excited. I'm so excited for them. I'm excited for us. Excited for
Yeah.
2024.
It just makes it feel like it's doable, right? Like, as you were
Yeah.
saying that, I thought, where did we learn or get conditioned to have this I mean, it's illusion, but it's truly being disillusioned by
Yeah.
perfection, by assuming that we're going to sit in front of all these vices, aka real life, and not fall off the track, not have a detour. And I'm like, when did we get this whole thing of like it's an all or nothing game, or I'm a failure if I'm not doing this? Like those are all just freaking stories and definitions we've written. And I
Yeah.
think like the biggest thing is I tie it right back to the why. Like when you can go back and you can dial into it and you can figure out why the heck you're even doing this and where we're headed, the detours are part of it. The detours often lead to the greatest results. I mean, half of our freaking detours have led us to better things. Half
Yeah.
those detours have led us to innovate, to create, to figure it out. I mean, one of our greatest detours last year was our marketing department,
Yeah.
and it detoured right into one of our greatest hires that we've ever made and like a stronger department because of that detour. And so, also, like, really feeling like, what do we do when we lose our passion? Because we're not going to
Mm.
be passionate all the time. What do we do when we can't get our team to follow through? What do we do when, like, I wrote this, I lose my excitement, AKA on Monday? Like, you come in from Friday, like Tiffany said, like that quote, it says, enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare. And so, setting you guys up, and of course, like I said, there's something coming that's paired with this to make sure that you guys actually have a plan and resources available from people who love you, who are committed to it, and who've been there and done that successfully. And that's what I'm super passionate about. Go for it. Like, if you guys don't want to come, by all means, like, go through it, figure out, assess your whole 2023, figure out where you're going, what's your plan, how are you going to get on track and build it. Or, in my opinion, take the route from someone who's been there and done that successfully and
Yeah.
come join us on January 26th. Because guess what? No matter how much you have in the forefront, the best thing you can do is actually have a community of people. Because when I tell Tiffany my goals, or vice versa, like this year, I put all my team up there on all these different goals, and we are now all accountable to one another. It's shocking how much more committed we are to the goals we set. And
Totally.
so, having a community, having other people who are like you, and I found in dentistry, Tiff, how often do you hear from clients where they all feel like this is just my practice? And then they start
Yeah.
popping in and seeing, like, oh my gosh, like
Hmm.
200 other offices are just like me. Wow. Not to sit here and commiserate, but like, wow, if that's really the case, then this is where it is. These are the resources I have. So I'm super pumped. Like you said, come join us January 26th, 2024. You're not alone. It's 2 hours. Something is happening special only on the 26th. There will be some other things that will follow suit. But 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Wow, could you imagine doing night? No one would show up. 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific. So 11 to 1 Eastern, 2 hours totally free. Come figure it out. Let's build that 1 through 10. Let's get those mile markers in place. Let's figure out what to do when things aren't there. Let's get that business roadmap. But also for me, I don't believe that business is just business. I believe business should be a roadmap to your ideal life. That's what all of this should be doing. Our jobs should be leading us to our ideal lives. Our businesses should be leading us to our ideal lives. So let's build that and let's figure out what to do when we lose that passion, or what to do when we have these hurdles that come into play, because they're coming, and give you real life ones. So come join us, thedentally.com/MM24, 2 hours that Friday only. Be ready. There's something really fun coming your way as well, to make sure you actually don't just get the enthusiasm on the 26th, but you're able to maintain it throughout the entire year. Because at the end of the day, Tiff, how much do we love to motivate people and inspire them? But
Mm.
like our real passion is actually seeing them fulfill these goals, fulfill these. I mean, I'm just thinking of a client you have in North Carolina, who they were when they started.
Yeah.
You want to just kind of share that like little journey of like what life can be when you really have the true momentum in life and can
Yeah.
move that forward.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They're so amazing. They're just amazing people. And I love them with my whole heart. So they started, let's think, one, two, three, four operatory, four doctor, two hygiene practice. So six operatory practice. They added on two more operatories within that same building. Been working with them since 2018 or 2019, one of those 2 years. I think it's 18. But anyway, so within that time period, they've added those two operatories. But within the last 2 years now, they've actually purchased a building. It's a 16,000 square foot building that a lot of that, it's not going to all be a dental office, a dental practice, but a lot of it will be. And they're going to have 16 operatories. And then they've actually, the doctor and his husband have actually created a business where they're property managing the rest of the building as well. So they're going to have other income coming in within that building. But that 16 operatory practice, like that is, they went from six operatories to 16 A lot of that will be surgical suites and hygiene, and it's just so incredible to have watched that because they had a dream, they had a goal, they had a community that they were ready to positively impact, a very specified community that they felt like they were the ones that were put in their town to serve, and they are exponentially changing that community, and it's been so cool, but really, I've taken them through these things every single year that I have worked with them since 2018, we have done these things. We've looked at their goals, we've projected into the future, we've built out that roadmap, and we've scaled it to see how am I going to get there. And then when we were off track, we rerouted. We took the detours. We looked at what needed to happen. So we were talking about them frequently. But it's so cool to see them come, and it was literally like a house, right? Their practice was like a house,
Mhm.
and this giant building. It should be this summer actually that they're able to get into that practice fully. So I'm
And
excited
Tiff,
for
like,
them.
I love the growth that this practice has
Yeah.
had, but can you also just like touch a smidge without sharing too many intimate details
Yeah.
of their personal life? Because their
Yeah.
personal life to me is their greatest success from where they were when we first met them to where they
Yeah.
are today. Just like a little touch on that, because I believe that personal success is equal to professional success and vice versa
Yeah.
if you allow it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It makes me emotional because they've done
Mhm.
so much, and I'm so thankful for having them in my life, and being able to be a part of their lives. And their personal life has gone from well, I mean, one of the biggest things that they've accomplished is they used to live about an hour away from their practice, and they did that on purpose, because they didn't want to have to go into the office all the time. They didn't want to be tied to the practice. They didn't want to have to jump when somebody needed to them to jump, and they wanted to have separation from the physical space but also the people. They wanted to be in a different city, so they were commuting an hour each way, and they would do it separately. So the doctor would go separately from the practice manager, and then within the last 2 years, that changed for them. They became so intertwined and so dedicated to their community that they actually moved to the town that their practice is in. And so now they're about 15 minutes away from their practice. And that was strategically done because they felt like they were finally in a place where their personal life wasn't so drastically different than their business life, that they could intertwine them. They could be a part, physically a part of their community. And what that's done is obviously gained time back in their life just in the commute, but they're a part of the community business programs. The manager goes every month to these meetings, and he's met so many people within the community and different other small businesses that they've helped promote. He's actually got like all kinds of stuff. It's volunteer, but it's like a side business over there that he's working on. Their vacations, they are on vacation all the time, without the business feeling it. And gosh, personally, like just them growing
Mhm.
together and the people that they have been able to become, their personal journey as far as their health and fitness has changed exponentially, but their relationship is so tight. Like they are just so good. And when they're not good, they have the conversations because
Mhm.
they've learned how to do that by building a business together. So as the company has grown and the size has grown, they've grown themselves and they've grown their relationship. And it's just been incredible to sit on the sidelines and watch and feel like I get to be a part of it and to watch them build, like financially. Like my gosh, I can't even speak to that. What they've incurred and what they've been able to create has been really cool. And their home is immaculate. It's beautiful. But aside from that, like none of those things would make a difference if they weren't the people that they are.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so getting time back, getting themselves back, and really becoming a good partnership were their goals. And they've accomplished those, and they're still going. Their goals, because they have accomplished those, doesn't mean they're gone. It just means that now they're in the maintaining
Mhm.
those relationships.
Yes. And I'm so glad you shared that tip. I think they're just a great example of like what goals can be, what life can evolve into when we really do have a plan for where we want to go. So that star to guide by. And then the detour routes, like we talked about, of what to do when we get off track, what to do when maybe what we thought isn't what is reality. And how can we shift those without having that guilt, without having that failure feeling? So I really want to encourage you guys, like, let's be like this practice. practice. Let's have the fun dreams. Let's have the fun goals. But let's actually have a true plan to master the momentum in 2024 instead of being mastered by it. And just you really taking ownership of your life, of your practice, of your team. So, like we said, come join us. It's free, January 26th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific. Head on over to thedentally.com/MM24. Tiff and I can't wait to see you guys there. Tiff, thanks for podcasting with me today. I always appreciate our time, and I always love to be able to create things like this with you because, like you said, we watch the trends we see. We don't create this for us. I mean, like we would do this internally, but it's so fun to create things that we know the dental industry needs and to be able to give it back, to give the love, to share it. It's just something that truly inspires me. So thanks for being a part of it with me. I appreciate you a ton.
Yeah, thank you for letting me be a part of it and creating with me. I'm
Of course.
excited.
All right, all of you, we can't wait to see you in January and go get those goals set. Remember, they're stars to guide by, not sticks to beat yourselves with. Enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare. So let's be the rare. Like you guys are here, you're listening to the podcast, be that elite 1% of the world that doesn't just like hope for their dreams, but actually captures them and exceeds them because you truly mastered momentum. Can't wait to see you in January. As always, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Dental 18 Podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental 18 Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.